And welcome to EWTN's 8th annual Walk for Life West Coast coverage in San Francisco. It's coming to you live from our studios here in Birmingham at EWTN. The event itself is coming from a new location this year, actually from the Civic Center Plaza. Has some impact on the event. I'm joined here on set as always for these pro-life events by our EWTN chaplain, Father Joseph Mary Wolf. And as always here at EWTN, let's start off with a prayer if we could.
You know, Doug, if all of the women who presently are carrying an unborn child, or those who will, would not seek to have an abortion, we'd have no more need for this march. So why don't we pray for those women carrying children or who will carry children, that they may reconsider their choice for abortion.
Very good.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Heavenly Father, we worship you. You love the thought of each one of us and wanted us to exist. And so you knit us together in our mother's wombs. Share your love with those mothers who are considering aborting their unborn children. Dispel their fears, free them from pressuring boyfriends or parents, and give them joy in their motherhood. Spare them, Lord, from a life of regret, so that they may enjoy the satisfaction of a motherhood lived in love. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. And now that came out of one of the daily prayers you've been doing for the network, and you've also put into actually a prayer book, right?
Yes, many people had requested that I put those together in a little booklets, so we've sent out a lot of those.
Right. In fact, for those interested, you can get Father Joseph's book of EWTN's Family Prayers by contacting our Viewer Services Department during business hours, 205-271-2989. Or you can go to our website and click on the EWTN.com, see where it says donate. And if you go there and make a donation for $20 or more, you're entitled to get a copy of this book. Just make sure in the comments section you indicate that you're in fact looking for the book. And it's been very, very, very popular and very, very helpful. And I know having them on the air this past year or so has really been helpful to a lot of viewers, get a lot of great feedback. Just before we go out to see Father Mark and Doug Barry, our whole Life on the Rock team out in San Francisco, one thing came up recently I just wanted to mention to you and comment about before we went out there, and one is that there was this, statement that came out of the government that had to do with mandating contraceptive coverage that seems to will impact Catholics as well as anybody else. And there's a wonderful video that Cardinal Designate Dolan has on the USCCB website. We hope to have that for you on our Monday coverage for the March for Life, but in between, if you'd like to go to the USCCB website and see it, I think it's worth actually taking in what he has to say. But before we go out to your San Francisco and our live coverage, what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, and very prophetically, actually the day before, Pope Benedict had spoken with a number of American bishops who are on their ad limina visits now to Rome, making their 5-year reports. And he had talked to them about America and how, you know, every culture has a certain idea or consensus. And in our own founding documents that we see there's faith there, but also certain ethical principles regarding nature and nature's God. But how this is being eroded. We're seeing these even outright hostility, he said, to Judeo-Christian ethical moral principles. But here's something he said that I think is very appropriate for the March and our March coverage today. He said, the Church's witness then is of its nature public. She seeks to convince by proposing rational arguments in the public square. The legitimate separation of church and state cannot be taken to mean that the church must be silent on certain issues, nor that the state must choose not to engage or be engaged by the voices of committed believers in determining the values which will shape the future of the nation. And in fact, he would call on Catholics to be that leaven in society.
Right, and of course this whole weekend we have pro-life programming here on EWTN, and of course we'll be together throughout the opening Mass for the National Prayer Vigil coming from Washington Sunday night, and then on the morning, the closing mass for the National Prayer Vigil as well. Some highlights from the youth rally, and of course our extensive coverage of the March for Life coming up on Monday. But with that said, we go directly to San Francisco for the Life on the Rock team, led by Father Mark Mary and Doug Barry at the Civic Center Plaza in San Francisco. Father Mark, how are things going?
They're going very well, Doug. It's a beautiful, beautiful day. Doug Barry and I here out right in front of City Hall at Civic Center Plaza. It's not a cloud in the sky, and we had some terrible rain last night. But Doug, what's your thoughts here as we see this crowd?
My first thought is I want to thank Mike for the hat and the very patriotic look here. It's keeping the sun off of my head. But the crowd, it's like family once again, and it's a bittersweet sort of moment. Obviously, it's a tragedy that we have to get together for this, but to defend life, that this is a problem we have to be focusing on. But there is something just very, very moving and warm about the fact that we're together as one big family here.
Right. It's a great spirit of fellowship. Certainly, the pro-life movement's made of much more than just Christians, but certainly Christianity is making an impact here and making a big statement. We're about to go down Market Street, which is the main parade route for all the protests or celebrations here in San Francisco. So we're very excited here to be right in front of City Hall, beautiful City Hall, and giving the pro-life message, preaching the gospel of life. Now we're about to have a rally here in about 45 minutes, and we're going to interview some of the speakers that'll be talking today, and they all are doing great work in the pro-life movement. So they'll be sharing their experiences and the work they're doing. And Doug, you're going to be in the crowd,
I'll be out in the
right?
crowd, just milling around with the people and pulling people aside and seeing where they're from and where their hearts are at, what their thoughts are. These events are so important because in a world the media dominates our lives. We're all inundated, by screens everywhere. Whether it's our iPhones, our television, the airports, wherever you're at, there's screens, grocery stores. We have to have that presence, as was mentioned, by Father Anthony at the beginning of the coverage here. The Holy Father saying that we've got to make a presence known. We have to make sure that the world is aware of the truth. And that comes from the Catholic faith, and that's why these events and the getting together of so many people, the coverage of this sort of thing is so critical. It is essential. It has to go on.
And I think that, we're going to tell me to throw back to the studio, Doug. So, Doug Keck, are you there?
What did you say? Get ready. Thank you very much, Father Mark. And that's a little bit of the scene set of what's going out there, Father Joseph. And, we were just commenting, looking at the screen there, that I know they're in a new location. Mm-hmm. And I guess on one level, the downside is that it's a shorter march in the sense of going down Market Street, though my understanding is it's actually where most of the marches actually happen in San Francisco. But I think the location itself, it's kind of interesting. They're starting there and ending up where they normally would start from. Right. But I think looking at it on camera, now maybe it's because they're talking about getting upwards of 50,000 people there, and that's what the effect is. But on camera, it does look like a larger crowd, don't you think?
It does look larger, and they're going to be going down the main streets in San Francisco. So we hope that it'll affect more people and bring this message to even more people in San Francisco and the whole West Coast.
Right. Well, one of the great things I think about this Walk for Life West Coast, our friends at Ignatius Press and some other people started doing this, back in, I think it was 05 or so. And I think one of the first years we went out there with a crew from Life on the Rock and shot some highlights for it and actually made a show. And then again, slowly we said, well, what can we do more? How can we show more? And as we have incrementally increased our coverage, that the net impact has been that the crowds have gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. Why do you think that is?
I think it's catching on that people want to witness to the truth of the faith, and really we have an obligation to do so. Right. If we are people who believe in Jesus Christ and we believe in the truth that there's dignity of every human life, then we believe that this is something very wrong.
Right.
That has been going on for too long, now in its 40th year, beginning next week.
Well, one of the things I've come to believe as well, like with the March for Life, definitely, and I've seen it with this West Coast Walk for Life, is that people at home start to see, wow, there's a lot of people there. I kind of maybe heard about it in my parish. Mm-hmm. I figured how many people could really be there. I'm not sure I want to go. When you start to see the multitudes there, you start to feel like, well, I could go there. It's not that hard. Or there's people for years who might have looked at the March for Life from Washington, D.C. and said, well, gee, here I am in San Francisco, here I'm in California,
Right.
on the West Coast. I wish we had something like this. And here was an opportunity really for them to take part for something that's not that far away. And I feel like at one level for EWTN, I think we did play a big part in promoting this event and in making this event accessible to people, not only by watching it at home, but by encouraging people to come out.
Yes, and hundreds of dioceses have their own marches in their own cities, and it's even now going across the pond over to Europe. We're seeing there's marches that are taking place in other countries over there as well, and part of what inspired that was seeing that and the effectiveness of it in our own country.
Right, it's funny you mentioned that too, because of the fact that we hope to, on Monday during our coverage, show some clips from various marches happening around the world.
Right.
And our coverage on Monday as well will be joined by Jim and Joy Pinto with facts about the pro-life initiatives around the world. We're going to have something new even on Monday, which will be kind of like a social media center with Michelle Johnson, where people at the march and watching the march will be able to interact with Facebook and Twitter. So it's something new. We're trying to be cutting edge as best we can.
That's right. You know, in Sweden, I read an article a couple of days ago. It was a year ago that their parliament voted unanimously that politicians should force, in a way, doctors that they would not refuse to do abortions.
Right.
So in other words, that they're being forced to go against their conscience. We're seeing that degradation in our own country, so we hope that this will help stop that.
Right, and speaking of some of the leadership behind this event, and one of the great leaders in the church in many ways, are being interviewed as we speak in San Francisco. Dolores Meehan's out there with Ava Montaigne, and of course the one and only Father Joseph Fessio. We take it back out to our Life on the Rock team.
We cannot lay down. We can't just...
Thanks, Doug. Eva actually couldn't make it, but we have Dolores and Eva, our co-founders. We have Dolores Meehan and Father Joseph Fessio here. Welcome to the show. And can you set up this new venue? Tell us about the significance of this.
Thanks, Father Mark. Great to be here. Great to have EWTN here for the 8th year in a row. This is City Hall. This is where it all happens in San Francisco. And this is the first time we're here. In our crowd, we outgrew our other space, our other venue, and this is really the only place large enough in the city to hold us. And it's fabulous because this is a message that should be heard on the steps of City Hall. So we're here.
Right. Now, Father Fessio, you are a local, born and raised in this area.
I am, and I'm here taking the place of Eva Montaigne, who's a co-foundress with Dolo here. Usually I'm better looking than Eva, but I got in a fight with the street last night. It was a street fight. I hit the street from my scooter. But I was thinking about it. It was rainy, and coming down, I thought, it's safer being on a scooter with a helmet than being in a mother's womb these days.
Right.
And I came out okay, which is not going to happen to a lot of babies right now in their mother's wombs.
Which
is why this walk is so important.
It is. It's the most common surgical procedure in America. I read a statistic as well that over 1 billion people worldwide have died. The unborn have died in the wombs. So it's a huge problem, leading cause of death in the world. So we're here to address that. Now, what do you think, Father? We're here in front of City Hall, the civic buildings, American flag flying. What about that?
Father Mark, a couple of things. First, we keep having new generations who are survivors of abortion coming here, and this is the biggest crowd ever at church this morning at the cathedral. It was absolutely packed, standing room only. It's the first time that's happened. So we know that the enthusiasm is not waning. We still have people who are here for life. But secondly, look at the background. We've got City Hall, American flag, California flag. We're showing the country and the city that we have a voice and the unborn have a voice here.
And I read as well that California has the most abortions than any other state in the country. So there's a great significance here, obviously, for the liberalism out here in San Francisco to have a pro-life walk. Now, Dolores, you've done a lot of activities here in the Bay Area for Catholics and for life. Is the tide turning?
Well, I think if you look around and you see the faces and you see the average age of the people that are here today, the tide is turning because the laws are really I think they're starting to crumble. You know, they're not reasonable, and I think our young people are not having abortions, and so they're less reluctant to embrace the rational discourse about why abortion is just a ridiculous option for.
Father Mark, let me say something. Yeah, the tide is turning. We got an election coming up later this year, and I hear a lot of arguments and a lot of speeches, a lot of talks, and immigration, Obamacare. That's important. But everybody's got to realize out there that the number one issue is protecting unborn human life, and the number two issue is natural marriage, a man and a woman. Because if we have another Congress, another executive that is going to be pro-abortion and pro-homosexual marriage, well, it's not a marriage, but union, I mean, I don't know if we can come back, if our country can come back from that. This is a very important election, and I urge you all to vote. And you got to make the pro-life issue and the pro-family issue the number one issue that trumps everything else.
It's so true, Father. And I think too, the emphasis I see is happening too is just on awakening consciences among the Christian community, especially. I mean, it's not just a religious issue here, right? That's talking about a civil right, a human right, and so everyone needs to defend that. But we need to awaken the sleeping giant in this country, right? If Christians were mobilized and any people of faith, you know, that would have such an impact on the culture. And we're here, there are a lot of Catholics here, and that is because our faith does send us out, right? We are here to preach a gospel of life. Could you talk about that aspect? Is that intrinsic to our preaching of the gospel, this pro-life message?
It absolutely is. But I want to go back to something, Father Mark, and you said, Dolo, about the turning the tide. I mean, we now have in California, which is a huge state, we've got a whole bunch of new Hispanic bishops. Bishop Soto in Sacramento, Bishop Garcia in Monterey, Archbishop Gomez in Los Angeles, and now Bishop Flores down in San Diego. Now, they are people who can lead the Hispanic population, and it's growing, and they've been co-opted by those who are anti-life, who are pro-abortion. So I'm hoping that with the leadership of these new bishops, for example, we have a big crowd here today, but Archbishop Gomez is having an event down in LA at the very same time. So I do see that we're going to mobilize these Hispanics who are generally pro-life and pro-family if they don't get corrupted.
Right.
So,
Well,
I mean, Father Mark, there's also another, there's a great witness about us here that is amongst it's really on a person-to-person. I noticed this year in setting up, dealing with the vendors, talking to the vendors that sell their art, their craft, the craft vendors down at Justin Herman Plaza. And we have to displace a lot of them for the Walk for Life. And they said, oh, what are you measuring for? And I said, oh, for an event. And they go, what event? And I go, oh, the Walk for Life, really quick. But you know, they're like, oh yeah, they're always really nice to us. And so it's a really important witness of the decency of all of the people that are here and how they behave towards the police, towards the merchants, and even the city and county of San Francisco. All of the people that we deal with that are logistical are so, they're so supportive, not because they agree with us necessarily, but because we have always shown great respect for the authority, and I think that's been a really important trademark.
So true of the walks and the marches. It's a family spirit. It's a great sense of fellowship, great witness. So we have, thank you so much for joining us. Stay off the scooters. And we got, yeah.
I just got one word for Mother Angelica, okay? Mother, save that room next to you, because one more scooter accident, I'll be joining you there.
Okay, so we're going to go to Doug Barry in the crowd. Doug Barry, are you there?
And hi, we're out here in the crowd. We have dozens and dozens of people around. Very excited pro-lifers from all over the place here. Yeah, good crowd. And I'm here with Roger. Roger, where are you from?
From Brentwood, California.
And how old are you, Roger?
I'm 18 years old.
Hey, Roger, tell us, what brings you here today for this event?
I'm here because I'm against abortion and the murdering of unborn children. And I think it's wrong that abortion is even legal right now. I'm not for abortion.
And as an 18 man. I mean, you know, the importance of a young man speaking out on these types of events. How's that feel? I mean, right now you're representing men because you're being seen all over the world right now, live. It's exciting. You're a voice, man. A lot of men in general. How's that feel? How important is that for men to speak out? Because protectors already. What's that mean to you?
I think it's big. That I don't know why men wouldn't want to speak up. There's nothing wrong with it, and yeah, I don't know.
That's all right, man. That's all right. That makes a good point. Why wouldn't we want to speak out? It's absolutely critical. We do. And we got over here. What's your name, dear?
Valerie.
Valerie. And how old are you, Valerie?
I'm 14.
What brings you in your heart and your mind? You got up this morning to get on that bus, and you came out with how many bus loads?
3 bus loads.
3 bus loads. All you, most of you young, you're getting on the bus, you're rolling out early in the morning. What's going on in your heart as you're coming to this event? Why is this so important?
I want to actually save more lives. Not that baby's fault that you got pregnant. It's not at all. Why are you going to take his life? It's just wrong. And I don't get it how people think that's right to kill another person.
And you being here at 14 years old, how do you think that's going to make a difference?
These days, many young girls are getting pregnant. So I think, like, if they see somebody that's their age, they'll know they're not alone. So why are they going to be forced to make that decision?
So, point right there. And I know you were saying earlier, Roger, the fact that, you know, here we don't even know who these babies could grow up to be. A lot of young ladies are in difficult situations. In general, they feel the pressure, but not even knowing that baby would be something magnificent in this world.
You don't know if they can grow up to be like a successful doctor, or be the next president, or just, you know, change the world or something, because you guys don't give them a shot. The baby's a shot.
And that's probably the best way to put it right there. We just don't give the babies a shot. We got to give them a shot. I mean, and whether we're not so great in the eyes of the world, just in God's eyes, and that's the most important thing to remember. So what message do you want to have for all the other young people out there that might be watching or might be hearing about this, actually regardless of their age, who might be considering an abortion?
Honestly, there's other options than abortion. There could be adoption. You could leave a baby at the hospital. You don't have to take his life just so that you could change yours or keep yours the same.
Right. Very good. Roger, what advice, encouragement, or what would you want to say to other men out there who might be fathers of children, young guys who might be in a situation where they're considering getting an abortion or encouraging or promoting or supporting an abortion? What do you want to say to those guys about really stepping up and being a man?
I said that you should let the baby live and be a man. Since you're part of making the baby, you should let it be born and raise it. I think it's wrong when the men are the ones that are pressuring the girls to have the babies aborted. It's wrong. They should just have the baby.
Right. Absolutely right. It's wrong when the men are pressuring. It's wrong when anybody does. But men, we're the providers. We're the protectors. We're the ones that have to be there to put our arms out and do what we can to help take care of these situations. I want to say to parents out there, man, who find a situation where their daughter might be, pregnancy. What do you want to say to those parents?
Don't force your child to have an abortion. It doesn't matter how old they are. They could save a life by not having an abortion. Let them have that child. You don't have to support it. They could have put it in other places.
Excellent. Very well put. Well, both of you, thank you very much. And all you, Brentwood, the 3 bus loads. And now back to you, Father.
Okay.
I'm here with some of our rally speakers today, Reverend Clennard Childress, Jackie Stelnecker, and Lori Hoy. Why is that so important today? I know the numbers are really catastrophic for the African American community.
Unquestionably, it's important for America, but especially African American community, to realize that they're being targeted by the abortion industry, that it unquestionably hurts women, and our voices have been too silent on this issue, especially the pulpit.
Now you are a pastor in New Jersey. And could you talk about the role of preaching? I know you're a great preacher. Every year you preach very well here. Talk about that and the impact that has on the community.
Well, I believe that's the primary way that God said he would create change in the culture. And that would be the preacher, the person who is under the anointing of God to come and speak against the injustices that are in the land. Every social change in this country that has brought about good has come from the church and from the pulpit. So it'll be also the case with abortion. The church has to respond. So undoubtedly the preacher plays a key role in that.
Now, Lori, you've made a strong case that this is really a civil rights movement. Sometimes the other side puts it in the context this is just religious talk. Could you talk about that element of it?
Is a civil rights issue. You cannot have any other rights, your life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, if you can't get here to partake of any of those things. And so abortion takes the life of an innocent human being, and in our community it's 1 out of 2. You have a 50% chance of getting here if you're African American. That's why we have become an endangered species. As of the 2010 census, we are now the number 2 minority in America. And for even after 400 years of slavery and segregation and Jim Crow, we managed to maintain, our numbers. But after 40 years of abortion, our population has been cut almost in half, and we are decreasing at a rate that is just astronomical.
You have your ministry is in Oakland here, California. How do you present the message that gets the best traction in the community?
Well, what gets the best traction in the African American community is talking about being a person. Because we know what it's like not to be considered a person. We know what it's like to be considered property. We know what it's like to be discounted and considered second-class citizens. And so when we present the message that everybody is a person, you're a person from the time you are the sperm and the zygote meet until the time that the Lord decides to take you home. And your life should be protected by love and by law for the duration of your life, no matter whether you're disabled, whether you're a veteran, whether you have health issues, whatever it is. God gave you life, and it's up to us to make sure you can live it to its fullest.
Okay, we also have Jackie Stelnecker with us. You are a member of the Silent No More awareness campaign.
Yes, I am.
Now you've been speaking all over the place, and you've got an exciting talk coming up. Could you tell us about that?
Sure. In addition to today, I just recently learned last week that I will be traveling to Brussels to speak to the European Parliament on my experience. Apparently one of the reasons that they want my particular testimony is because mine was a coerced abortion. I was held at gunpoint. And this seems to be an ongoing problem, apparently in Europe. And I've learned that in Hungary, they are the only ones that actually have written into their constitution that they are completely 100% pro-life. And so the Europeans are trying to accommodate their countries as well, but they're having obviously opposition as we do in this country.
Now the core message of the Silent No More campaign, how would you say that?
Well, we offer hope and healing to women and men who have been affected by abortion. It's not just always being concerned about saving the children in the pro-life movement. There's also saving the souls of the men and the women, also the doctors and anyone who has assisted in that. And when we talk about assisting, we also mean, did you drive someone to have the abortion? Did you talk to them into it? That type of thing. So we offer hope and healing for that, and then some of us go out and speak on behalf of the campaign to let them know that this hope and healing is available to them.
Some people do not realize the impact that it has on those involved in abortion, especially the woman, but the father, the providers of abortion, that there is an impact to being part of this violent act.
Yes.
What are some of the consequences for the woman?
Myself personally, I've endured cancer 3 times, stage 4. Had 25-pound tumor in my uterus, had that removed. They attribute all of that to having had the abortion. The emotional impact has been catastrophic in my life. It's not only affected, my life, but it's also affected my entire family once I decided to, let them know about what was going on. So it's actually split our family to a certain degree until everyone became healed.
Got about 30 seconds. Pastor, do you have a parting shot for us, a message that you'd like to give?
Without question, this is one of the most invigorating events. I'm just a pleasure to be a part of that. I'd ask that people would go to my website, blackgenocide.org, and they can put in perspective what abortion is doing to the African American community and the people of color.
And Lori, do you have a closing comment?
Well, I want everybody, you can go to issues4life, 4life.org, and IamAperson.us, and I just want to say a big hello to everybody from Father Frank Pavone.
All right. Well, we have Doug Berry in the crowd. He's got some more of our, okay. Oh, not, okay. All right, so Doug's finding some people. He's going to interview here in a minute. But let's go back to Jackie now. You've spoken about the impact on yourself, and that's a big part of the Silent No More is the personal testimony.
Right.
Is also education, and you give retreats and things?
We actually partner up with Rachel's Vineyard, which is also falls under the umbrella of the ministry of Father Frank Pavone, Priest for Life. So that's an opportunity to help men and women actually go through the emotional boundaries that have been set by this heinous act. Also, these retreats can be offered to anyone who's been affected by abortion in another way, you know, whether it was actually accompanying that person, again, to that particular clinic. There's a lot of trauma that's actually identified now. It's called post-abortive trauma. And this past summer, I was able to attend a conference, and there were 200 of us there to learn about, you know, the post-abortive trauma that we experience in our brain and different parts of your brain that actually freeze as a result of this. And we're able to carry that out and educate the public with what's going on and what's available for healing.
Reverend Clinner, let's talk a little bit about the boldness and the proclamation of the message. I know you've suffered some heat, right, from your preaching. Talk about the courage that we need to have.
Well, that courage is being demonstrated here today. We have to go to the public square. It is not anyone's favorite subject. Matter of fact, it grieves most preachers to even have to talk about it, that we live in a society that's dismembering our children in the womb and mutilating. It's the most violent act in America. And unquestionably, it has to start in the pulpit, but it has to go from the pulpit into the public square.
So they tell me Doug Barry's now ready. He's got some of our protesters today. So Doug, are you there?
And we're back here in the crowd. I've got a friend of EWTN. Mike, how are you?
Doing fine.
Michael John Poirier. Did I pronounce it right?
You do better than I did. Yes, it's wonderful. It's great. We're so glad to be here and so glad that it's sunny because it was pouring yesterday. You should have seen it.
It was. We flew
we had
last
you back.
night, downpour. You know, you may always make you wonder what the good Lord's going to do, but he gave us a nice window because the rain's coming back in later tonight and tomorrow morning.
You got to see Guadalupe, these kids here. We're from Ville de Maria Academy. It's a tiny Catholic school with a huge heart in Scottsdale, Arizona, and we out here to be in the March for Life. And we've got this.
Tell you what, right now, we've got to cut back to the studio for just a bit here. We're going back to Doug Keck. We'll be back with you in a bit.
And from Doug Barry, right here to Doug Keck in our studio, along with our chaplain, Father Joseph Mary Wolf. Unfortunately, as you can tell, when you do live events, as a former engineer, right? That's how you started out here at EWTN,
That's right, running around during
it was funny, we were watching while the event was happening and they were doing the set of interviews with Doug early on. Father Joseph was all over analyzing the problem here.
I still have the ear for that, yes.
He said, we're having some audio problems. I can
right.
hear it right away. So while we wait for them to get that fixed out there in San Francisco, again, for the 8th annual Walk for Life West Coast, which is what we're anchoring here and talking about, let's talk a little bit about some of the other programming coming up this weekend. Besides this particular event, of course, people can go to our website, www.ewtn.com/pro-life, to find out all about the programs and other resources here on EWTN. And of course, the last couple of years, we've also been doing the whole March for Life from Washington, which we'll be working on, and we've got the masses coming up on Sunday. Mm-hmm. And so it's a whole weekend of programming and live events happening here on EWTN, and we'll be back to the Walk for Life as soon as we take this short break. Stay with us right here on EWTN. Back here for our coverage of the Walk for Life West Coast. Doug Keck here along with our EWTN chaplain, Father Joseph, and we take you quickly right back out to the action with Father Mark.
Hi, thanks, Doug. I'm here with Dr. Wong, who is a former abortionist, medical doctor, now works for a medical clinic, Pregnancy Crisis Center. And the name of your clinic?
It's Alternatives Pregnancy Center in Sacramento.
Dr. Wong will be one of the rally speakers today, but also David B. Wright, no stranger to the network. I've interviewed him before, and Sean Carney, who's been on Life on the Rock.
Yes, good to be back, Father.
Right.
Good to see you.
Now, David, you are director of 40 Days for Life.
Yes.
Could you talk about your program, the 40 Days for Life?
You bet. 40 Days for Life is a program that's made up of 3 focused components: prayer and fasting, because we know that with God all things are possible, even ending abortion. We also participate in peaceful vigils outside of abortion facilities and Planned Parenthood offices, bearing witness to the injustice that happens inside, but also offering hope and help to the mothers inside the place. And we also have a time where we do community outreach, reaching out to other people. Reaching out to people throughout communities so we can offer them information about the sanctity of human life and invite them to be a part of the solution. So this is an effort that's spread now to 422 cities across all 50 states and 13 other countries. More than 500,000 people have participated. God is moving in a mighty way.
Okay, now you are, I've been told you are a marketing genius.
Oh.
What are some of the, well, Sean, would you agree with that?
Yes.
What are some of the, I hate to say tactics, maybe it is correct to say tactics that you use in getting that message
Sure, well,
out there?
I came from the business world. I was in sales and marketing, and I decided that when I came into the pro-life movement, I could bring the skills that I had learned there and use them to help build the kingdom and to help save lives. So we do a lot of things when we train our local leaders to help them be more effective at articulating their message, to help them attract people into their efforts, to build relationships with them, and then to challenge people to do things that will advance the 40 Days for Life mission. So we help them work with communication tools, whether it be email or text messaging. We help them to understand effective ways to communicate. We do everything we can to try to help our local leaders be more effective. That way they can help to save more lives in the community where they live.
Now, Sean, your role in the 40 Days for Life organization, what is that?
I've been the campaign director for 40 Days for Life, and if people want to get involved on the local level, there's 250 cities that are signed up to participate in the spring campaign. It'll be from Ash Wednesday all the way through Palm Sunday. It starts February 22nd. The West Coast has been some of our best campaigns, and our most populous area has been California. We have 34 40 Days for Life campaigns throughout the state of California, and so we always love to come to the West Coast Walk for Life. 40 Days for Life has been huge on the West Coast. In La Puente, California, Los Angeles County has 1,287 abortions per month. And the 40 Days for Life at an abortion facility in La Puente closed after 5 40 Days for Life campaigns. And David and I flew out there last summer and met one of the babies that was saved as a result of that. And so sometimes people write off the West Coast as far as the pro-life movement. Today is an example that there's a lot of hope in our country, even in unexpected places.
All right, now, Dr. Wan, you will be speaking here today, and you had a dramatic conversion. Could you tell us about that conversion? What really convicted you to the pro-life side?
Father Mark, it's just an amazing story about God's grace. God put me through a trial at work and got my attention through the death of a young mother who was in labor. And as a result, my world was turned upside down, and I turned to the only person you can, and God and Jesus Christ. And once I accepted Jesus into my life, I haven't turned back at all. I asked the question, as a former abortion provider, what can I use that for? And what I can use it for now is to be a voice for the unborn. And presently, I'm the medical director of a crisis pregnancy center where we provide ultrasound examinations for women who are contemplating abortion.
We just have about 30 seconds. Could you tell us, what would you tell the provider out there who might be listening to this? What would you tell them?
Father Mark, I would tell them that there is no reason for you to end an innocent life. And though it's not your decision, it is a wrong decision.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. We're going to go back to Doug Barry, who's in the crowd with some more pro-life demonstrators. Doug, are you there?
Okay, stand by. And here we are again at the thick of it. We've got thousands of people. They're still coming in. Buses are pulling up all around. People are still getting off, and the groups are coming from all over the place, but not just here in California, not just the San Francisco area. We've got an old friend of EWTN, an old friend of mine for many years, Michael John Poirier, and you're here from Arizona, right?
Arizona, all of us came from Scottsdale area. We're at Ville de Marie Academy. It's a Catholic school with a big heart. All the kids here, we brought Guadalupe with us. You can see we're going to have her in the march. Last year we had this great time where there was the disruption, the few hagglers that there were, once a few of us started to sing Ave Maria, it all melted away. So we decided bring Mama this time, and so that's who we're with, from Ville de Marie Academy.
And how many came up here with you?
How many of us all together? 17.
But this is quite a journey coming from Arizona.
It's a pilgrimage. We stopped in Santa Barbara and then at Santa Cruz, and it's been awesome to see the effect on the parishes that we stop at too. People saying, well, I'm not going, but how come I'm not going? You know, there's someone maybe watching who they could be here, and they're not. So we want you to just ask yourself that, why aren't you here?
Well, and you've been involved in this type of work, you know, evangelization, you're singing and songwriting and such for many years, and your wife here for a long time. You know, the Holy Father has said that it's important that even as the world for America pushes the whole separation of church and state, and this was mentioned by Father Anthony at the beginning of our coverage, it's critical that the church doesn't take that as a, we're not supposed to be involved. We still need to have a presence known. We still need to be involved in this. What words, what encouragement do you have for the people out there who've been fighting this pro-life fight for a long time, and we just start feeling tired at times, discouraged?
Another reason to come to this march is last year we saw 50,000 people, and I'm going to say maybe 200 protesting, maybe. So when you see that, you realize it's already, we've won. We've already won. It's just a matter of letting the rest of the world know. And you're the main media coverage doing that right now, but it's got to catch on. The more people that come here see that hearts are being converted. We were showing love to the people on the other side. There was a little girl on the opposite side, and I said, we love you. So she saw her parents yelling in anger and us saying that we love you. And that's the response. There's no defense against it.
Well, and I think you're right. The main thing is that the numbers show it, the tide has turned. We're in great position. We've just got to keep moving forward because there's still a lot of hearts and a lot of souls that need to be affected and impacted.
Some things you just have to see. This is the first step to see it on EWTN here, but you got to come here and see it, experience it. And so what if it rains? It's not, but we're coming every year. So we'll see you here next year if you're not here this year.
That's great. Awesome. All right. I think so. We're going back to Father Mark then, I think, right now. Okay. God bless you, Michael.
Yes,
we'll
right.
see you back in a little bit.
All right. Thank you, Doug. All right, thank you, Doug. I'm here with two bishops here from California. You have Bishop Vasha from Santa Rosa and Bishop Corleone from Oakland. It's great to see you all again. I know, Bishop Vasha, you have been a very strongly outspoken proponent of the pro-life message. Could you talk about that message that you deliver to the flock? How do you deliver that? What's that? How do you package that?
A message that I try to give is simply a word of encouragement, you know, and gratitude to those who have worked so tirelessly for so long for the cause of life in our country. And I always tell people that, you know, we perhaps have a tendency to discouragement, as Archbishop Niederauer mentioned in his sermon at the cathedral. And discouragement, in my mind, is the work of the devil. And if we give way to any form of discouragement, it means we're not trusting enough or hopeful enough in the salvific power of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And it's Him for whom we are ultimately working. And so there is no possibility of defeat. There's no possibility of genuine loss. All we can do and what we must do is continue to be faithful. As long as we are faithful, we are successful, and there is no reason to be discouraged because the results do not meet some sort of a secular measure of the results we would like to see.
Could you address to Christian discipleship? I mean, does the Christian have the duty to be out strongly advocating life?
Certainly every Christian has a duty to recognize and to put into practice that respect for life which they hold in their consciences, in their hearts, and in their minds. They know that there are innocent children being slain every day, and we cannot as Christians stand idly by and wait for someone else to do something about that horrible travesty in our midst. In many ways, all of America is complicit, in the work of abortion, and that's a terrible legacy for this generation to be leaving to the next generation. And for that reason, it's so thrilling to see all of the young people who are here who participate in these kinds of pro-life activities. And it is those young people who know better than we did when we were their age about the value of life and the need to preserve and protect it.
Okay, well, Bishop Corleone, you've certainly been involved in many battles here in California. Can you talk about the latest and the efforts you've been making? And you could hold the mic there. The latest, like the parental notification.
We have
laws
an
and
initiative now that's been proposed for the ballot, parental notification for minors abortion, which, you know, in the polls, it always polls well in California. It's a law that Californians want. It's been on the ballot before, but it always gets at the last minute overwhelmed by the huge financial and political resources of Planned Parenthood and all the other stakeholders in the abortion industry, and it is an industry. But there's growing awareness, and we know among the young people, growing awareness of the sanctity of human life. So we think it's an opportune moment right now to make another push for this, and we're encouraging our people to support it.
What are some of the things you've learned? I know in trying to change the civil law, you've been so involved with upholding the dignity of marriage. What have you learned? What would you tell the other activists out there?
Well, you know, the truth cannot be suppressed indefinitely, and the truth resonates with people. We need to catechize our people, and when people understand the message, they come around. This is a winnable battle, both on the life issue and on the marriage issue. There's something in people's hearts that resonates with them. So it is a winnable battle. It's also, I see in God's mysterious way, how he's bringing his people together, because there have been tremendous ecumenical outreach and joining together among Catholics and Protestants and LDS especially around these issues that we understand are so vital to the good of our society and to our nation thriving. So it's a great ecumenical moment, and God is bringing his people together. It's a winnable battle. We need to be very aggressive, though, in educating the public about these goods.
As a bishop, what does an event like this do for you? We speak about the encouragement that the walks provide. What do you feel when you see all the people out here?
Well, it certainly gives me a lot of energy to keep going. When we look at what gets reported in the media, you know, it's usually everything on the other side. But, I mean, this is the real story, and it's the majority young people here. So certainly very encouraging, very energizing, and fills me with hope.
All right, well, thank you so much, Your Excellencies, for joining us. We're going to go back to Doug Berry in the crowd. I think he's got some pro-life demonstrators. Doug, are you there?
And we are back here in the square. Again, thousands of people, buses still showing up across the street, people still coming through the intersections. I'm with young Maria Lewis. How are you, Maria?
Fine, thanks. It's great to be here today protesting against the hard injustice of America's greatest catastrophe.
And you are a mere 7 years old, I think. Is that right? What? No, 15. I'm just kidding. You're 15 years old, and you're here, and this means a lot to you. Why?
Because we survived abortion. Anyone who was born after 1973 survived America's greatest Holocaust abortion. 1 out of every 4 are killed in our country because of abortion. I survived. My parents chose to give me life, so I must stand and fight a battle for my voiceless peers who are being eradicated every single minute because of abortion. Every 24 seconds, 1 child is just wiped off America's ground. America is stained with millions and millions of human innocents who are just being killed. I have to stand up and even sacrifice my life for the cause. I am willing to risk everything just to save 1 baby. Abortion has taken the right away from America. They've taken its freedom, its liberty, and its justice away. We have to stand up as a youth to bring back America's dream of freedom and liberty for all human beings.
You know, everything you're saying, I completely agree with, excuse me. But tell me, why do you think so many young people are having a hard time embracing everything you just said, the truth of what you just said?
I think that they're not educated enough. I think that the youth have to be educated on the truth about abortion, about how horrible it is, the truth about it. A lot of people just think it's, you know, there's no abortion. They don't know what it actually is. They don't know that the doctors go inside there and pull the human innocents, just strip their legs apart. We have to educate them and tell them the numbers, the statistics, and tell them that it is killing a human baby. It is not just terminating a pregnancy. It's not just throwing away a ball of cells. It is actually, it's murder. It's flat out murder.
You're absolutely right. Now you've got something you're going to be focusing on. You've got something coming up this summer. Tell us a little bit about that.
I started a pro-life youth-led organization about 9 months ago to educate youth and to stand up against this catastrophe. And right now, I'm organizing a pro-life youth conference from Northern California. It's called the Pro-Life Youth Conference NorCal. It's going to be on June 16th, and we're trying to have about over 500 youth come to this event. We're going to hire speakers from all across America to come to speak to the youth and to educate them about the horror and injustice of abortion.
It sounds like an amazing event. Do you have a lot of support? Do you have adults working with you on this, or is this primarily just more grassroots youth?
We do have some adults helping out, but I've been having to do most of the work. You know how 20% of the people do most of the work and everyone else just sits around. But a pastor at my church, Catholic church, his name is Father Jerry Brown. He's being very supportive and he's helping us out with this. And I've got Eva and Gibbons from Walk for Life helping too.
Well, if you got Eve especially, you know, you got the good people behind you. All right, we're going to take this back to Father Mark. Maria, we're going to keep track of what you're doing, and great work, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
All right, back to you, Father Mark.
All right, thank you, Doug. I'm here with the Birth Choice Clinic people, I should say, Kathleen Eaton and Annie Ryan. You were on the show a few months ago. Great to see you here.
We're glad to be back.
Now, you all are people, you're the boots on the ground out there working with the communities. Can you describe your work at the Birth Choice Clinics?
Yes, you know, Father, we are the boots on the ground. Everybody here is just doing great work, but we're with Birth Choice Health Clinics, and we have structured our clinics to be the into the front lines and really battling the abortion industry. We go into the areas where there's a large abortion clinic, and we open up as close as we can, and we do full service, full medical service. We have nurses, nurse practitioners, medical assistants. Some of our clinics have doctors. We do everything. For example, our big competition is Planned Parenthood, and to compete with the client base that they have, we have to offer medical services that they provide minus contraception and abortion, of course. So we do prenatal care up to, in some of our clinics, up to delivery, working with our doctors. We do STD testing and treatment. Importance of that is, of course, to get the youth into our clinics so we can tell them about what they're doing to their bodies by that. We do well woman care. We do women's yearly exams and pap smears so that we can also educate them on their reproductive system. And we're just training in FEM, which is a fertility education program, and also going in and teaching young people how to understand how God has beautifully made them. So we're a full service, full scope medical clinic. And it's pretty exciting. We see about between 18 and 20,000 clients in our clinics in Orange County area and up here in Napa. And we also are expanding throughout California, so it's pretty exciting.
Let's talk to the Napa Clinic. Annie, what do you see, the women that come to your clinic, what are some of the pressures, the reasons that tempt them to have an abortion?
There are a lot of reasons. One is that they're young, they haven't finished school, they don't have the support that they need. Some of them are worried about their parents supporting them at all if they are to carry through with their pregnancy. Some of them are married and have kids already and don't feel like they are financially ready to take on another child. So it really spans from the young unwed teens to the married older couples with children.
What would you tell if you have if you're a friend of someone who's considering abortion? What would you tell family and friends of the young women considering? What can they do to help the person choose life?
Well, number one, love them. One of our brochures that we get from Focus on the Family says, "My teen is pregnant, now what?" And it goes through how to love the girl, how to support her, and she needs that first and foremost because she's already beating herself up over this. So the first thing is always love, to support her, and then to talk to her about how they're going to move forward. So really it's just giving them a lot of support, being there for her.
Okay, now what attracted you to the movement to do this work?
Well, I started out at Berkeley in the Berkeley Students for Life, and then I started working here at the Walk for Life West Coast. And this has always been my passion, to help my own peers, friends who have had abortions, watching them go through the pain and knowing the resources that they need. Birth Choice fills that gap. And when I came to Birth Choice, or when Birth Choice came to me, it was a dream come true. This is a dream job, to be able to do what I love, what I have a passion for, and help my own peers and help my generation to realize that they can stand for life, and that if they are pregnant, then they can do this, and they have the support that they need to do it.
We're about to go to the rally at any minute, so we'll chat a little bit here. Kathleen, I wanted to ask you, you always seem to be able to raise an incredible amount of money to support the birth choice clinics. Talk about that faith you have in divine providence.
Well, you know, I am a post-abortive woman. So 32 years ago, I walked out the back door of an abortion clinic and left my son behind. And 30 years ago, started in this movement and opened up pregnancy resource centers and now medical clinics. And I believe that I think that, well, number one, God is in control. And I really, whenever I speak, I ask the Holy Spirit to speak through me, and people give. And people give because I believe that they realize that this is the time. That this is the time, that this battle has taken place over 40 years, and this is the time today that we really need to step up within the next few years and make an impact in the medical model, and people are ready to fund that. I did. I had an event and one night raised, almost $2 million, and I think it's because people are saying, we can do this, we have God on our side. We have won, but we've got to fight the battle on the front lines, and they support us.
Okay, well, they're telling me the rally is about to begin, so we're going to pitch to the rally for the 8th Annual Walk for Life West Coast, and so we'll bring you the rally and the speakers now.
Your grace, and make their efforts well-pleasing in your sight. That you will assign to your servants a guardian angel to banish from this effort every obstacle, whether visible or invisible, that this walk for life may be ordered in wisdom and may end in perfection by your grace. For you are a merciful God who does love mankind, and to you we send up glory, to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, now and forever, and to the ages of ages.
Hello, Walk for Life West Coast. Okay, I have a couple requests. First request, we love you because you came and brought signs, but now can you put down your signs so everyone can see? Down, 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 down signs, come on. We love them, but we need them to go down right now. Next request, we need to make this city hall rattle with our voices. So everybody on this side is going to yell, Walk for Life. And everybody on this side is going to yell, West Coast. Now let's see who can do this. Walk for Life, West Coast. Walk for Life, West Coast. Walk for Life, West Coast. Woo! That's an awesome vocal warm-up, because now you're about to sing the national anthem of the United States of America. Gentlemen, if you will remove your hats, and everybody put their hand over their heart, and if you are military or ex-military, we love you. You are welcome to salute. Here we go. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er
welcome back. I'd like to know, how many of you were here last year? And how many of you were here in 2005? So that's pretty good. That means you're coming back year after year, and we're growing like crazy. Thank you so much for coming. And before I give you your assignments, because you are going to have an assignment here, I want to thank a few people. First of all, our spiritual leaders. We have Archbishop George Niederauer of San Francisco and 11 of his brother bishops. So we welcome them here to the Walk for Life. And then we have the Reverends Clinard Childress and one of our favorites, Walter Hoy. They're here. And of course, Father Aris, who you just heard. So we thank them all for being here. And I think somewhere here is also our dear Father John Malloy. He's 90 years old, and he's our everything. So I hope he's here. He was supposed to be here. So anyway, we want to thank them all for coming. But I also need to thank all our volunteers. We have the best volunteers ever. I mean, they give their time and talent. I mean, it is amazing how much we get accomplished. Walk for Life is 100% volunteer. So we always welcome volunteers. If you have a talent, you're welcome to join us. So we thank them all. Won't you help me to thank them that putting this together? Okay, so now on to your assignments. As you know, we were trying to get a parental notification initiative onto the ballot, and we're going to need your help with that. To get this measure passed, it takes 800,000 signatures of California voters. So your assignment today, and you will not be able to leave here without it, is to get a petition, sign the petition, take blank petitions with you, and get others to sign it. And we need for you to do this. This is something that's non-negotiable. We have to put our signatures where our mouth is. If we're pro-life, we have to do everything we can to make that shine. So we have several areas here of people passing out petitions and taking signatures. Off here to the right of is a table set up, and people are mingling in the crowds. Please sign them. On your buses, there might be some blank petitions. And we also have another initiative, the Personhood Amendment. You'll hear more about that from Lori Hoy, who's going to be our first speaker. And so we need for you to also sign that petition. So you cannot leave here today without at least signing 2 petitions and taking some with you. And make sure to go out there and go to your parishes and ask for help. If you're ready to help, go there and they'll give you blank petitions, and go out there and get those signatures. Okay, so because to me, for evil to win, all it takes is for good people to do nothing. So let's get together and let's sign those petitions. Amen. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to introduce Lori Hoy. As you well know, Walter Hoy, this is his wife, and she's going to tell you her story. And without further ado, Lori.
Hello, San Francisco. This city is pro-life. And we're going to make sure it stays that way. Today I have standing with me the Sisters of Life. And they are. Yes. They are my sisters in Christ. They are prayer warriors. And I know if no one else is praying for us, the Sisters of Life are. Now, if you were born after 1972, you are a survivor of the abortion Holocaust. And the young people here to my right are from the Survivors Ministry. These young people, they take a stand for the unborn. They go to the streets, they demonstrate at colleges. They're just phenomenal. I just love them. They are my favorite ministry. They have even been incarcerated for standing in the public square defending the unborn. Survivors. And of course, my husband, Walter, is standing with me, and our wonderful friend, Kevin McGarry. And I want to thank Eva and Dolores for the opportunity to share with you. And I want to thank all of you for being here. In the cold, it was a little rainy, but it all worked out because God is good. Didn't God give us good weather? That's right, that's right. All right. Well, I'm going to share a little bit about me, and I'm going to start with the beginning. Yeah. My mother is the youngest of 5 children, and at age 16, she was her family's last best hope to go to college and get out of the projects of Chattanooga, Tennessee. My father, at age 18, is an only child from a family with money. And when he took my mother's virginity and conceived me, he shattered the hopes and dreams of her entire family. I asked my father if he had suggested abortion to my mother. And he told me that in 1959, women were dying from abortions. And he felt he had done so much damage to my mother's life already that he did not dare suggest that she have an abortion. So he literally just ran away. I grew up with my mother and my grandmother, my granny. She was my rock. She was my support. She was my sustenance. My mother graduated from high school after I was born. She was class valedictorian. She was a straight A student. She was an athlete. She made it. But after graduation, she had to get a job in a daycare center because without a college education, there wasn't much you can do in the 1960s in Tennessee. But my grandmother and I were partners. I helped her do everything. We watered the plants, we swept, we cooked. We even had matching aprons. We were tight. But at the age of 5, my mother decided that she wanted to move to California. I was totally against it. At 5 years old, I knew they had earthquakes in California, and earthquakes were not a good thing. So I wasn't coming. But I managed to get here and have been here for over 40 years, and so I thank God that he brought me here. Now, my childhood was not all that spectacular. My mother came to California and she married a man who was extremely violent. He abused her, he abused me, and at age 10, he molested and sexually assaulted me. But I held on to the strength that I got from my grandmother. I did not let that event define me. School was my saving grace. I was an excellent student, straight A's, and my favorite subject is mathematics. Say, yay, math! Now, I discovered that if you're a minority female and you're good at math, there are a multitude of opportunities open to you. Everybody wants to talk to you. You get invited to activities. I participated in a lot of competitions. I got to go to college campuses. I mean, it was kind of like everywhere you go, you know, it was working out, it was good. And that carried me for a while. But when it came time to go to college, I had college scholarship offers from all over the country: Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Tuskegee, UCLA, USC, Boston University. I mean, I could have stacked this high of people paying me to come to school. But at 17, it was hard to pick. Where should I go? Should I go away? Should I go here? And so I brought all of my information, all the scholarships, all the offers on the table. I could go to school for free. I just had to pick one. And I asked my mother to help me pick a college to go to because I had watched her help my cousin for the last 5 years, flit all over the country going to school. And my mother looked at me and she told me that she didn't have any money and she didn't have time to take a look at the information with me. So I tossed a coin, picked a school, and I ended up at San Jose State in their electrical engineering program. San Jose State!
But after I got enrolled in school, my mother told me that I had to get a job. I couldn't understand that. My school was paid for, but I had to get a job. So I'm working 40 hours a week. I'm carrying 18 units in electrical engineering, and in 30 days, I lost 15 pounds. It wasn't working. But I continued on because I had to get my education. I had to go to school. In the summer of 1984, though, I was taking a class. I was taking 2 classes, and on the first day of class, for some reason, the power was out. You know, it's kind of like Candlestick a couple weeks ago. And so I went home. I said, great, I can go to the gym, I can work out, I can get there earlier because my class was at night. And I get home, and I get my workout bag, and my mom and my sister are going to eat. I said, well, okay. So I asked, could I tag along and go eat? My sister looked at me and she said, no, she can't go. And my mother looked at her and said, she can go. She doesn't know where we're going. She doesn't know what we're doing. She can go. Doesn't matter. So on our way to eat, we stopped at Kaiser. Now my sister, runs track. She's twisted her ankle. She had a lot of injuries. So stopping at Kaiser didn't really alarm me. And we went to Kaiser, and I sat in a waiting room reading books, and they went in for whatever the appointment was, and we went to dinner. And then the next day, I had another class, and for some reason, the teacher had car trouble and never showed up. And so I went home again. I said, okay, this time I'll work out. I won't go eat, I'll work out. So I get home, and I get my bag packed, and I'm at the door, and I'm getting ready to walk out the door, and I run into my mom and my sister in front of me. And my sister looks horrible. She's got a hospital band on her wrist, her skin color is gray, and she's barely standing. And so I dropped my bag, and I went to help her. My mother stepped in between us, and she looked me in the face, and she said, I did not want her life ruined like mine was. And it hit me that my sister had just had an abortion. But what hit me even harder was the fact that my mother had such hatred for me just being here. And so I stepped out of the way, and I let him go by. And I took my bag, and I went to the gym, and I just sat in the steam room, and I just cried. It was unfathomable for me to conceive that my existence was responsible for ending the life of my nephew. And it was hard for me to deal with that. But the Lord is good, and He actually moved me from the job that I had to a job here in San Francisco. And I moved out, and I got my own place, and I got away from my family. And the Lord allowed me to meet a man, the man standing next to me, who led me into a relationship with Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. And I'm here today because of the strength of my grandmother, but because of the love of my husband and the love of Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. My life verse is Jeremiah 32:27. Behold, I am the Lord, the God of all flesh. Is there anything too hard for me? We need to end abortion today. And there is nothing too hard for God. No matter who you are, no matter how you got here, no matter what issues you have, God can fix it all. He can work it out. And we can end the scourge of abortion in America today. Thank you.
You're watching EWTN's live coverage of the 8th Annual Walk for Life West Coast from San Francisco, from the Civic Center Plaza. This is EWTN's complete coverage.
everybody. Can you hear me? Can you hear me way in the back? Can you hear me way over there? Isn't this great? I wish you all could come up and see all of you out there, because it's the best sight I've ever seen. We are clearly the biggest crowd of the Walk for Life West Coast. And we're all here, and this is all happening because you are all here. So let's give yourselves a round of applause. And Eva pointed out all the people that worked so hard to make this happen. I gotta say, I gotta fall on the sword. I'm not one of them this year. I've been in school, so I've done very little, but I get the joy of being up here in front of you all. So I want the people that I think are most important that we thank today, and we make sure that we give great respect to, and we always do, and that's why they are so cooperative with us, is the San Francisco Police Department. And it's not just today that we want to thank SFPD. We want to thank them all throughout the year. They have a hard job. So, I forgot what else I was going to say. We kind of want to get an idea of who's from where. So if you give a big shout, then we'll know. So let's start with Southern California. All right, and we do not resent you guys for using our water to water your lawns when we have a drought. We're all here to forgive. How about Central Valley, Stockton? How about North Bay? How about South Bay? How about San Francisco? What's that? Oh, San Diego. How about we just say Southern California? All right. There we go. Who's from outside of California? All right, you guys. That's awesome. So, Northern California. So this is really the Walk for Life West Coast. And you guys make it happen every single year. And it is so incredible to see it growing and growing and growing. And what we're telling everybody as we watch it grow is that this is important. Life is not the abortion issue. The reality of how abortion impacts women and men and children is not a provincial issue. And if it is a provincial issue, we don't care if it's a provincial issue. Because we're here to say life is the choice, and women are hurt by abortion. And that's why we're here today. And I'm going to bring up, for the first time, we have a doctor has come forward on his own initiative and asked to share his story of the years when he was performing abortion. So we ask, this is Dr. Wong, who's an OBGYN from Sacramento and is now the acting director of the Alternative Pregnancy Center. So let's give him a very warm welcome.
Thank you very much, Dolores, and I hope to have an opportunity to thank each and every one of you for coming out today to support life, to protect life. I'm also very thankful for my colleagues here. These are other doctors and nurses. These colleagues of mine are champions for life as well. I wanted to talk to you about a unique perspective of abortion, and I've got to just check because I think there are not too many of you who have taken the life of another human being. If you have taken the life of another human being, could you please raise your hand? It's very difficult for me to say this. I want to explain my banner, which I brought. And if you can't see the banner, it says, done hundreds of abortions and now regret the destruction of every precious life. So that statement bears some explanation, because I think there are a couple of questions you could have regarding that statement. How does someone who works so hard to go to a good college, to get good grades, to get into medical school, to study hard to try to benefit humanity, end up performing an abortion? Well, what happened is that in 1987, I completed my residency in obstetrics and gynecology. And like most young doctors, there was a little debt to be paid financially. And we're looking for a little extra work to be done. Now, there were several different options, and I chose all of them. One option was to work extra nights in our delivery room to deliver babies and to do C-sections. Another option was to perform surgery in the evening for women who needed hysterectomies and other surgery. And another option, which I wanted to talk about, was our evening abortion clinics. The evening abortion clinics were easy money because you were allowed 3 hours to do these procedures, but if you were efficient, you could get in and out in an hour and a half. And in a way, I had to delude myself that this was the right thing to do. The important part is that I was not yet a Christian, and life did not have the same value in my mind as it does today. And I rationalized the performing of an abortion because I worked for a healthcare company that was obligated to provide abortion services to our members. I said to myself, hey, it's not my decision. This woman made the decision, and I'm just here to carry out her decision. And after all, who was I to say that her decision was wrong? And it was with that mindset that I performed hundreds of abortions over a period of approximately 7 years. Now, the next question about this statement of I did 100 abortions, and then something changed. And what changed is that God got a hold of me. As I was growing up, I was trying to figure out what was my purpose in life, what happens after I die, and I really couldn't find an answer. And it was through the death of an 18-year-old mother while I was working in our delivery room that my world was turned upside down. The pride I had in my expertise was shattered. My career was in jeopardy, and I made a deal with God. And I told God that if He got me through this ordeal, and if He would let me practice medicine, then I would be His. And I'm so glad that I am. I'm not a very fast learner, but over several months, I learned that God created us in His image, that each of us is fearfully and wonderfully made, that we all have a purpose to do good works. And as I was thinking about my new life as a Christian, I really wondered why it is that God took me down this path of such evil to destroy and end babies' lives. And I was at church looking at a bulletin, and there was an opportunity to volunteer at a pregnancy center. A crisis pregnancy center called Alternatives Pregnancy Center, a faith-based organizations where loving people share the love of Christ with women who are contemplating abortion. And my medical expertise and my license enabled us to become a medical clinic where we can now provide ultrasound examinations and show women who is really living inside of their wombs. And it's been an incredible blessing for me to have been a medical director at Alternatives Pregnancy Center in Sacramento. In many respects, I say it's been my rehab. I grow spiritually every time I go to visit. And looking back on these hundreds of abortions, I just need to say that from this end, after having seen so much pain, so much suffering, the end of so many lives, that abortion is barbaric. Abortion is intolerable. Abortion is irrational. And abortion has no place in any civilized society.
And this is EWTN's live coverage of the 8th Annual Walk for Life West Coast from San Francisco. From the Civic Center Plaza, this is the platform with the various speakers. And again, this is EWTN's live coverage of the 8th Annual Walk for Life West Coast.
Just bear with us as we have a scene change. But thank you so much, Dr. Wong. Wasn't that amazing? Isn't it great?
Hello, everyone. The 8th Annual Walk for Life West Coast. I was here the first year, there were only 3,000 of us. There were more anti-lifers than us, and now look around. As far as you can see in every direction, there are pro-lifers. Hallelujah. I'm the co-founder of the Silent No More Awareness Campaign and president of Anglicans for Life. I have had the privilege of working with Priests for Life and Father Frank Pavone and Janet Morana in creating a campaign that breaks the silence of those of us who have had abortions. I have been blessed and humbled to work with and get to know thousands of women and men who regret their abortion. And today I am honored to introduce to you our regional coordinator from Birmingham, Alabama. Her name is Jackie Stallnecker. And in addition to being the coordinator for us, she was the former Miss West Virginia, former national spokesperson for the American Heart Association, and currently she is the executive director for Ignatius Productions And most of all, she is my friend. And I introduce to you now Jackie Stalnecker.
Good afternoon, West Coast. It's an honor and a privilege for me to be here with you today. I came public 3 years ago and gave my very first testimony on the stairs of the U.S. Supreme Court, thanks to these two people standing next to me. Through their perseverance and dedication in helping me to seek the healing that I needed, I'm able to speak to you today. And I can't tell you how happy I am to see so many people. I was a little worried last night with the weather. I made an announcement at an engagement that I spoke at last night that unfortunately my time in California is less than it took me to get here. But the message that I have to deliver to you is worth even 60 seconds of your time. So I appreciate you being here. It was 24 years ago on January the 10th that I made the mistake of my life. I had everything that I had ever hoped for and more throughout my life until that point. My parents had provided a wonderful education. Like my sister who spoke earlier. Thanks, George. There were several different schools that wanted me. I had done the pageant system to try to help fund my education. I had it all. I wanted to move to Washington, D.C. All right. Okay. How about I hold it? I wanted to move to Washington, D.C., so my parents made sure that that happened. I had a fantastic job out of college. I had every single thing going on for me. And I had what I thought was a great boyfriend. That boyfriend and I crossed a boundary. And that boundary that we crossed created a life. And when I talked to him about what had happened, he told me there was no other answer other than abortion. I thought, okay, we can give it a couple of days and I'll try to talk to him and perhaps he'll understand that abortion is not the answer. But I woke up 2 days later with a gun held to the side of my body, and he said to me, "It's your life or the child's life. You make that decision today." He walked me to the car. The gun was under the seat of the car. We arrived at the clinic. The gun went back into the side of my body as we processed up the stairs. We walked in the front door. There were pregnant women sitting in that lobby, so I thought, okay, maybe now this is the opportunity. I won't have to do this. But guess what? I didn't even get to finish my paperwork before they took me back. The woman who said she was a nurse said to me, "Jackie, you have a band-aided problem, and we can help you discard that problem." Because of who I knew was sitting in the lobby, I thought, I have to go through with this. And she led me to believe it was okay. I would have another opportunity to have a child. So in my moment of pure fear and desperation, I allowed this to happen. They took me into the exam room. At the time, they were not giving sonograms, so I wasn't even able to see my child. But I can tell you the very second that my child was dismembered in my body. And for years, I didn't know what particular process had been used. Until recently, I remembered the doctor had told me when I'm screaming in pain and the nurse is holding me down, "Hold on just one more second, Jackie. There's only one more part to remove." So I knew that my child had been dismembered, piece by piece removed from my body. The procedure was over. I was taken back out to the lobby. No recovery time, no instructions other than if you have pain, take aspirin or go to the emergency room. I never had that opportunity because as I walked into the lobby, I realized my boyfriend wasn't there. So I thought maybe, a small chance that he had a conscience and maybe just went across the street where he had parked the car. So as I start to cross the main thoroughfare that goes through Bethesda, Maryland, I collapsed in the middle of the street. I lost 6 units of blood and ended up in the hospital for 3 days. I nearly bled to death, and there was nothing I can do about it. I held that secret for 22 years. In that 22 years, it has affected every relationship I've been involved in. I have suffered through stage 4 cancer 3 times of the uterus, and a couple of years ago had a 25-pound tumor removed from my uterus as well. I still have my uterus, but I don't have a child. My Lily Gabrielle intercedes for me in heaven. I don't know what she looks like. I don't know what color her hair is. I don't know what color her eyes are. The only thing that I have to remember her by is a nameplate that was also placed at the National Monument for the Unborn during the Freedom Rides with this man right here, Father Frank Pavone. It's through his devotion and dedication to the post-abortive women and the pro-life cause in this country that I had that opportunity. A final place where I can go and leave flowers or a stuffed animal for my daughter because I have nothing. After I decided that I was going to become forward with this, I gave my very first testimony on the Supreme Court stairs 3 years ago. After I did that, I went to my parents and told them what I did. And my mother's last words to me were, "Perhaps you're the one that should have been aborted." For 3 years, we didn't talk. I did receive lilies this past Christmas Eve. So I called my parents for the first time in 3 years. My dad, he's coming around. My mom, she's grieving. She feels like she did something wrong in bringing me up. And I say this to you not to say that my mother is a bad person. My mother's a wonderful person because she chose life, and that leads me here to you today. I asked for your prayers for her and my dad, but I want you to know that this is the type of stuff that absolutely disintegrates your life after you've made this choice. The trauma, the pain, the desperation that I have felt in my life up until this moment has been so overwhelming. There's been times where I've not wanted to be here on this earth. But I realized through the hope with all of you and people around this wonderful country that we live in, and through the leadership of Father Frank Pavone and Georgette Forney, we can continue to persevere to end abortion in this country. So I challenge each of you, if you know someone who's pro-choice, tell them about this story. Tell them about the work we do. Make them listen to us on silentnomore.com. The testimonies are there. The stories speak for themselves. We're real people with real stories to offer to you. Please continue to support us in every way you can. God bless all of you for being here. It's because of you that I can continue to do this work. And it's going to be through you that we end this in our country. God bless you.
And this is EWTN's live coverage of the 8th Annual Walk for Life West Coast, coming to you live from San Francisco, the Civic Center Plaza. This is the platform with the various speakers, hosted by Doug Barry and Father Mark Mary, our Life on the Rock team. Again, you're watching EWTN's live coverage, and look for continued coverage throughout the weekend for the masses from Washington and the March for Life coverage on Monday. This is EWTN.
The Walk for Life has always been sort of synonymous with Reverend Childress, and we are so happy he's back this year. So let's give him a warm, warm welcome. And if you're cold, he's going to warm you up.
Praise the Lord. I mean, this looks so awesome and so beautiful. I'm just so blessed to be able to share with you today. And undoubtedly, after these testimonies of Lori and Jill and Doctor, you know why you're here today. I always want to remind you that you are the salt of the earth. And God has ordained you for such a time as this, that you are fulfilling your purpose to stop this egregious evil from being perpetrated against those whose voices have been cut off in the womb. You are the candle. You are the light. I think the Lord moved you down here in front of City Hall to let you to know you are the city set on a hill. You're the ones that are going to make, don't throw bricks at me, but you're really going to bring change, true change, to this nation. It's going to be your voices. It's going to be us in unity. It's going to be us one body addressing the evil. Abortion is evil, and evil will press up against you daily. God has called you to wrestle with this evil every day of your life, and God has anointed you to prevail. We understand and know indeed they will fight against you, but you don't have to worry about. The media will censor you, no question about it. Politicians will attempt to abuse you. There's no question about it. And it should not surprise anyone that our president has called your Bishop Nolan and let him to know in the health care plan, which is no more than an attempt of somebody's ideology to socially engineer this country and to bring about abortion on a mass scale and truly shut off care of the elderly. He's let your bishop know that shall be no conscious inception. There'll be no conscience. Everybody has to participate. You will not be exempt. There is no exemption because you're Catholic, because you're Baptist, because you're Pentecostal. And so, in other words, the mask is coming off now, and we're beginning to see the true agenda of this present administration. This is 2012, and you're walking today. You might as well keep walking all the way to Washington to let them to know we are not putting up with this any longer. It's time for abortion to end. Hallelujah. Glory to God. And see, they will fight against you because you have the truth. See, all you got to do is turn around behind you. See, it's up on the wall there. It's truth. You're walking in the truth. And evil will always attempt to censor and silence the truth. And one of the building blocks of society and what made this country great was the foundation and understanding that we are all created equal. And anything that was injustice dealt with that injustice by remembering that cornerstone of truth. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all mankind was created equal, endowed by the Creator, endowed by the Father, endowed by our God. The government didn't get, I don't want any rights from the government. I want God's rights in my life. And he says, I have the right to pursue. I do not want anyone cutting off my pursuit because they feel that I would not be prosperous or successful. And I will not allow this to continue in this country. As long as I have breath in my body, I will be marching, I will be protesting, I will be preaching against this evil. You know, Dr. King said this, and this, as I often says, this mirrors that movement. You are the salt, you are the true civil rights movement, but it was more than a civil rights movement. Like, this is more than a pro-life movement. It is a Holy Spirit movement, because the Spirit addresses evil and injustice. And so you are motivated because you're blessed by the Holy Spirit to address evil. And understand that Martin Luther King had your message. He said on Christmas Eve, before his death, few months later, that we have to have a non-violent.
Yes, this is the 8th annual Walk for Life West Coast. There, little technical difficulty from the platform. And now we're back.
Of the sanctity of human life. Dr. King said that in order to have peace on earth, goodwill towards men, you have to have a nonviolent affirmation of the sanctity of human life. He took it further. He said, man is not a tiny vagary of whirling electrons or an endless wisp of smoke from some smoldering, but he is a child, she is a child of God, and should be respected as such. And if we're ever going to have this peace on earth, if we're ever going to get serious about being America, he said this, you have to address the sacredness of human personality. I was just thinking on this way as I draw this to a close. All Baptist preachers say that. Then we talk for another half hour, but that's all right. As I draw this to a close, understand I was sitting back there getting ready to interview, and I saw David B. Wright, who's 40 Days for Life. It's been such a blessing to America. But remember that 40 Days for Life, God is moving in it because it's coming up on 40 years. After 40, there's a shift. After 40, there's a change. You can ask Jesus, you can ask Moses. After 40, things begin to look different. And I'm going to tell you, coming up on 2013, you're now in 2012, you're coming up on that pivotal year of a major shifting in this country. They're not going to tell you you're winning. In 1967 was the first law in Colorado. Did you know 40 years later is about the time we began to turn public opinion around 2008 and 2009? And then, to my pain and chagrin, we elected the most pro-abort president ever in the nation of this history, in our history of our nation. And guess what? We got even better. We began to testify more. We began to protest more. And the shift now, most of America is pro-life because you walked, because you shouted, because you testified. You refused to back up. You refuse to say no. You refuse to allow them to censor you or to bind you. And that's why this walk is so crucial. That's why I believe, since it's coming up around 40, there's got to be a personhood bill passed in this nation. If it's not in California, I really think it's going to hit in Mississippi. There's going to be something. Yes, Mississippi is burning, but it's not burning like it used to. It's burning right now, but the fires are representing those who have no voice. And personhood is crucial. It is the cornerstone of all law. It is the basis why this nation was born, because everybody deserves the right to life. I am a person. Hallelujah. And so we got to understand that's why you're walking, that's why you're so special, that's why you're precious, that's why God has ordained you for this time in this season. This is your purpose, this is your calling. God has caused you to bring about the true change that this nation so desperately needs. So all you 40-day for lifers and all those who have been waiting, all those who have had their lights burning through this long night of injustice, our time is coming. CBS, CNN, ABC, they're going to ignore you. You don't need them. Keep walking. Keep praying. Keep testifying. Keep lifting up your voices in the public square. We will prevail. You shall prevail. And you're going to see it in your lifetime. May God richly bless you.
Glory.
All right, everybody, we're going to get going.
Okay, we're about to wrap up our coverage here of the rally. They're just giving some instructions about the march itself, the walk itself down Market Street. That will end up in Justin Herman Plaza. We're going to go through the financial district, Doug, and we're going to proclaim to the city here the message of
We're
life.
occupy the financial district for a very short while as we march right through. Yeah.
The Occupy movement is here, but we're here in the cause of life. And I've always reflected on that when I'm at these events, that the Holy Father said it so eloquently in the Gospel of Life that we have a serious, grave obligation to proclaim this Gospel of life to the world, to the culture. Now, you were out there in the crowd. What was the tenor of the crowd like?
It's always, the vibrancy, the energy is always very, very apparent. The young people, all to the elderly. You see such a span of ages here, which is very exciting, very encouraging. I want to thank Marlene. She gave me her hat. So I've had 2 hats given to me, by the way. This is old traditional. 49ers, big game tomorrow. But I got to tell you that the energy for something like this compared to the energy for something like a football game, that kind of crossed my mind. This doesn't stop. When the game is over, the game is over. They'll have their parade, they'll walk through the streets, and that's that. It's a game. It ends. But this is life. This goes on. So the march continues. Even after the physical march is done, this energy doesn't go away. People carry this back to their homes, to their parishes, to their youth groups, their Bible studies, you name it, their workplaces, the hallways of their school, and they keep it going. And that to me that struck me, just kind of contrasting the excitement of a big game, for a big playoff game tomorrow, to what we're here for, year after year after year after year after year, and it will continue on. And every time we do this, we encourage, we invigorate, we uplift, and we keep going.
All right, now we see the walkers are beginning to head down Market Street, and it's a great symbol of the movement of this, what we're doing here, right? We're people on the move, proclaiming Jesus Christ, heading towards Him. He's won the victory. We have to remember that, part of our faith. He's won the victory through His resurrection. And that's why we are a people of life, because He's conquered death, and we proclaim that message of life that Jesus Christ gives us. And certainly natural life is part of that message, and so we do that today. Some people ask too, why do you march? Isn't it a whole lot of energy and time and money? What's the point of that? Well, one reason is it gives voice to the people that have no voice. As Reverend Childress said, the unborn are persons, right? We don't say you become a mother at birth. When the woman conceives, she's a mother there of the unborn child. It gives voice to them. It lets our political leaders know that there's a number of people out here that are pro-life. It also encourages those in the movement. They have the fair here, the info fair, of different people come and represent their ministry in the pro-life movement. So we can encourage one another just by the numbers. As our guest said up here, the number of young people here. That's what really, for me, gives the greatest hope. And a fourth aspect, too, I think, is that these young people, it might inspire them to have a very active role in the pro-life movement. We've heard that in some people too, that they really felt inspired at a march to go out, go home and do something.
Well, this is the young lady I interviewed earlier, Maria Lewis, who's 15 years old, full of fire and enthusiasm, ready to take on the world for pro-life. She's been involved in this movement and really actively doing things for 9 months, and is organizing an actual youth event coming up this June. That's one example. There are many who come here, this is their first time, they're learning, they're getting their feet wet. These events are so important for those things because it, like you said, it can set them on fire, they start moving, and that's what we have to do. It has to be done from every corner, every angle, every position we can.
Right. And our message here, the church's message, is saying, we find the fullness of life in Jesus Christ. We want to make that life available to others. We preach that life, and we can have it through faith. But also that that abortion is intrinsically evil. It's intrinsically wrong. The church always has that as part of her message, that there's no circumstance or conditions that ever make it right or make it permissible to take innocent life. So a big theme here is we say that abortion hurts women, and we know the after effects of that, but also we're here to speak for the unborn, right? Just so you know, the pro-choice side likes to say, well, you know, we want to maintain this freedom to choose. Well, in making this choice, that doesn't make it right, you know, just because you have the license to make that choice. We say there's an objective good and evil here, and that life is always the right choice, the good choice to make.
And it's something that just has to be passed on to the next generations. This cannot stop here. It has to keep going on. As Father Anthony mentioned at the beginning of the coverage, you know, the Holy Father's words about the church must make the presence known. We must make the presence of the truth known in the world. That's our job. And that's what this whole event is all about.
I know we've been at these events for a number of years now. This is the 8th annual one. Any thoughts about this year? Any differences? Certainly it seems like we're moving up in the world. We're here right in front of City Hall, and we're along the parade route that, you know, all the big parades here are done on. So it seems like it's getting momentum. Is that your feel?
I think so, yeah. And there is something in the eyes and the tone of voice of the people that you talk with. There's a hope there. There's definitely a hope. I do think it's being ratcheted up. You know, we've got the elections coming up. It's an important time. And, you know, these events, the crowds, the energy level is definitely growing. And it's contagious. And it can help us all if we just have that open heart.
And I think as John Paul II said, we need a real mobilization of consciences. And that's what we hope to do here, to awaken that sleeping giant in the pews, so to speak. You know, devout Christians and faithful that maybe really need to amp it up. You know, there's so much good work being done, but we also know there's a lot of people that do not see the urgency of this message. And part of it is that it's so hidden from most of America. But do you realize, Doug, worldwide, it's been over 1 billion abortions. That's the leading cause of death. That is the most common surgical practice in America. You know, this is an issue. This is violence against the unborn. What's more important, right? This is the fundamental right. There's no rights. If this one isn't granted, there's no point in talking about any other rights. Isn't that correct?
It is staggering. It's anytime we think about the Holocaust in Nazi Germany, we think of the millions of people who died in the concentration camps. You know, it's staggering to think that people could have been convinced that Jews or Gypsies or Christians or anybody out there that it was an offense to the Nazi regime was considered worth killing, that they were considered less than human. It is unbelievable to think that we could convince people of something on that level. But to imagine that we could convince a world, over 1 billion as you mentioned, and those are the ones that can be counted. Those are the ones that we see through abortifacients and other things. To think that we have effectively been able to convince a society, and I'm speaking generally, obviously when I say we, that it's all right to kill a child in the womb of its mother is an unfathomable thing to consider. And so it is absolutely essential that more people get involved, that we are marching in the streets, events like this, but we're also doing it through prayer, we're doing it through our voting, we're doing it through our parish level, our school level, wherever and whatever situation we have, because too many people are still convinced that it's all right to take the life of a child, and it's just not acceptable.
Well, Doug, let's talk about the faith aspect too. One of the things about these marches is, I know it encourages all of us in our faith and all of us to be generous in living out our vocations. I know you spoke, and I spoke to Kathleen Eaton. Amazing how she keeps her movement running, the birth choice clinics, you know, a number of clinics that offer real medical services across, or mainly in California, but in other places as well. I mean, she raises a significant amount of money every year, and she has to live by faith and really out there doing it. There's so many people like that here that, you know, are just coming and really relying on the Lord to send them people they need, to send them the funding they need. And it's such a witness, too, of just following inspirations. You see these people doing different things, just even the organizers here. You know, they put so much time and energy into this walk. You know, that really speaks to their faith, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. There's no doubt about it that to get up every day and, you know, get back into the fight, get back into the mission of this type of work is not an easy thing to do at all. There is no financial security to this type of work, to mission work in general. It is a reliance on God.
Yeah. And we see so many different parishes and banners. We spoke to groups of young people here. They've come from, I guess, mainly all over California, but certainly an eclectic group that have shown up. And I know I'm inspired by them. And we're here just to recap and sort of bring this to a close, is that we're in front of City Hall here in the heart of San Francisco. It's it's getting kind of windy, a little bit cooler now. A beautiful day. San Francisco is a beautiful city, and we see the beautiful City Hall and the Civic Center Plaza here behind us. So, Doug, do you have any closing thoughts, or we'll take it back to the studio?
Just always want to encourage everybody out there, don't give up. Just don't give up. Just keep fighting that fight. It's essential that we wage the good warfare. As we hear in the book of Timothy, we've got to wage that good warfare because we're not fighting the flesh here. We're fighting principalities of darkness. And we cannot give up.
We'll take it back to Doug Keck and Father Joseph signing off. This is Father Mark and Doug Barry. So back to you, Doug.
Great job there, Father Mark and also Doug Barry, our dynamic duo from Life on the Rock. And I'm Doug Keck here with our chaplain, Father Joseph Mary Wolf, in our EWTN Pro-Life Central location for our studio for our coverage of this event as well as other events upcoming throughout this weekend. Father, just ask before we go through some of the other events people can look forward to, what's your takeaway from this particular experience, this particular march?
It's really heartening to see that it really is a movement that is growing and that it's fueled by the young people. And as Reverend Childress said, it's a movement of the Holy Spirit too. Father Mark kind of brought that out as well. How people feel inspired to do this, to counter the evil that is out there, and to be messengers of Christ.
Right, exactly.
Right.
And of course, people can go to our website, our EWTN.com/pro-life for information on all of the programs we feature on EWTN, as well as resources having to do with the whole pro-life movement. Now again, this is just really the beginning of our pro-life weekend. We've got the opening mass of the National Prayer Vigil for Life that comes up live right here on EWTN Sunday at 6:30 p.m. That's from the Basilica in Washington. And then in the morning, there's the closing mass of the National Prayer Vigil for Life live on Monday morning at 7:30 a.m. Eastern, and that's where all the young people get there. Have you ever been at that particular event, Father?
I have, and the procession itself takes about 20 minutes because of all of those involved in it, and it's really inspiring, again, just to see the young people and people involved.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned the young people because also happening at the same time, there's also these dual events happening at the Verizon Center, I believe, and also the Armory for young people, and that the Archdiocese of Washington actually puts on, and hopefully we'll be able to show some highlights from those events as well as we come out of the actual Mass from the Basilica and lead into our live coverage of the March for Life from Washington.
And you talk about it's a movement of young people because they're the survivors. You know, it's been going on for 40 years, and these are the people who have survived the Holocaust that's right in our midst.
Right. Well, to be born these days hopefully makes one pro-life.
Yes.
Exactly. And also, of course, with the March for Life, we'll have our normal contingent here in the studio. We'll have not only the two of us, unfortunately, for our viewers. We'll have Jim and Joy Pinto from our radio program at Home with Jim and Joy. They'll be here talking about pro-life things. And we'll also have a new edition, kind of a little dipping our toe into social media.
Right.
And Michelle Johnson, our communications director, will be handling our kind of social media center, where we'll be twittering and getting tweets and hopefully even featuring people's comments on Facebook, etc. And all of you who know exactly what I'm talking about know more about it than I certainly do. But anyway, we're going to be trying that on Monday. So any closing thoughts before we go?
I think that EWTN has a role to play in helping encourage people to continue on, that this movement is growing, that it is changing lives and hearts in the minds of many people, and that there are people alive today because of this movement, because it's brought this issue to the fore.
Right, exactly.
It's had people face the reality of what abortion really is.
Well, thank you so much. Well put. That's our chaplain, Father Joseph, and I'm Doug Keck. Thank you for joining us for this special coverage of the 8th Annual West Coast Walk for Life. We'll see you Sunday night.